In his rush to dig, Schliemann had in fact destroyed much of the very civilization he sought. Homer's Troy, Troy 6 and 7, resides in the middle levels, not the bottom, where Schliemann reckoned it was. Despite the confusion and destruction, Schliemann had clearly established the existence of Troy. The discovery made him famous.
Schliemann announced his results, deliberately forgetting to mention the name of Frank Calvert. Calvert's name was lost to history, and Schliemann claimed credit for finding Troy.
He had found Troy, but one thing bothered him. Troy was not very big, and Schliemann could not understand why such a great war was fought over so small a town. To prove there was a Trojan War, he had to produce a bigger, more powerful Troy, one that was sacked and burned. The trail Schliemann had been following for so long had finally grown cold. So he turned his attention back to Homer's Iliad, across the sea, to ancient Greece. There are many individual kingdoms in Peloponnesian Greece in the late Bronze Age, but they all answer to one kingdom, Mycenae, and to one king, Agamemnon. It was Agamemnon's brother, Menelaus, whose wife Helen had been taken. She is still in Troy with her lover, Paris. But in this insult, Agamemnon sees opportunity. He calls together the rulers under his control and enlists their support. The mission: retrieve Helen and loot Troy, the city rich in gold. The secret weapon: Achilles, the greatest warrior in Greece, whose agility and fighting skill have been bestowed by the gods. With the largest fleet and the greatest warrior, how can he lose?
King Agamemnon, with a head and face like Jove, the Lord of Thunder, a waist like Mars, and a chest like that of Neptune, stands peerless among the multitude of heroes.
Agamemnon, king of the great city of Mycenae. Could this have been the kingdom which led the Greeks against Troy? In 1876, Schliemann went to the site where Mycenae was thought to have existed.
People would have taken him right there and said, this was the home of Agamemnon, this was Mycenae.
At these unexcavated ruins, Schliemann began digging again, hoping to find Agamemnon and another lead to the Trojan War. Mycenae, a place of wealth and violence. Unlike Troy, Mycenae's existence had never been in doubt, but no one had ever systematically excavated the site until Schliemann arrived. And what he uncovered here was stunning.
You go into the citadel of Mycenae, you go along a wall, and you go through a gateway, and over top that gateway is a huge stone lintel block, and over top of that is a roughly triangular piece of stone, which has a carving on it of two lion-like creatures facing each other with a column in between.
Lions. What could they mean? In ancient times, lions were the symbolic guards marking a royal establishment. The Lion's Gate is one of the oldest monumental sculptures in Europe. To Schliemann, it was the entranceway to Agamemnon's court. Schliemann began to excavate, and what he found was a circular space that resembled a meeting place or town square.
But when he began to excavate there, he found it wasn't a meeting place. It was a monumental area in which there were graves.
Graves. Instead of a town square, Schliemann had found a cemetery.
And he found a number of deep shafts that had been cut down through the ground and into the bedrock. And at the bottom of each of those shafts was a rectangular chamber, which he found a great number of bodies.
Schliemann dug deeper, convinced that he would uncover the body of Agamemnon himself and unlock new secrets of the Trojan War mystery.
In each grave were large quantities of very precious objects, of gold and silver, large quantities of exotic objects that had been brought to Mycenae.
Gold. Incredible as it seems, Schliemann had struck gold again. The most remarkable pieces, golden masks placed on the faces of the dead, a sign of a treasure-laden afterlife. Schliemann had seen enough.
He sent telegrams to major newspapers announcing that he had looked upon the very face of Agamemnon.
The European press gobbled it up, but Schliemann never let the truth get in the way of a good tale.
The original mask that Schliemann had found was the round-cheeked, friendly face of your next-door neighbor. The king of Greece came to see this, but in the meantime, Schliemann had found an even better mask. And so when the king showed up, he showed the king that second mask, and this is the one with the curly-Q mustache and the beard, which looks much more regal. It looks like a Victorian British gentleman. And so some people have suggested he took a golden mask and had a friend, a jeweler friend perhaps, actually add the beard and mustache to it.
Perhaps Schliemann was not above altering the very face of Agamemnon. But it wasn't Agamemnon. It was 300 years older. Once again, Schliemann's insatiable search for the Trojan War had made a remarkable discovery by pure luck. The mask was from an earlier Mycenae, but Schliemann was still looking for the Mycenae that reached its zenith in Homer's Iliad. In the following years, archaeologists would uncover a remarkable link to Homer, a boar's tusk helmet that precisely matches a description in the Iliad.
And over his head he set a helmet made of leather. The gleaming teeth of a white-tusked boar ran round and round in rows stitched neat and tight.
Suddenly, Homer is more than just a poet. Finally, the mythology and the archaeology come together, and Agamemnon's city comes into focus. Like Troy, Mycenae was positioned atop a hill, dominating the trade routes below. And like Troy, Mycenae became a wealthy place. It was also reputed to have a long history of dynastic violence. Agamemnon's grandfather killed his own brother here and fed the body to his children. In Agamemnon's time, this city is on a war footing, the fate of Mycenae hanging in the balance. As the great fleet prepares to sail, Agamemnon makes a desperate act. He sacrifices his own daughter to beseech the gods for favorable winds to Troy. Could a fleet of 1,000 ships have really crossed the Aegean to attack northwest Turkey? If so, how? 50 oarsmen on a single-decked ship could reach speeds up to 8 knots. With 260 miles between Mycenae and Troy, it would take Agamemnon's fleet 3 days or more to cross Homer's wine-dark sea. Whether it was the gods, Agamemnon's sacrifice, or his able seamen, it worked. The Greek fleet crosses the Aegean and arrives on the Turkish coast. But then, Agamemnon's luck would run out. In a petty quarrel over a slave girl, the great warrior Achilles refuses to fight for the Greek army. Agamemnon will have to take Troy without him.